Homesh and Rashi. We are in the fourth reading, Parshas Lech-Lecha. We're living with Abraham, the first Jew. Yes, you can watch on YouTube, Tanya Rabbi on YouTube. If you don't get to watch it now,
Page 81.
watch it later.
81.
Okay. Let us go straight into today's class. We're going into the first war. The first war in the Torah. Yeah, it's lengthy today. Okay, we are in chapter 14, verse number 1. Vehi, and it was, and it happened, B'yamei Amraphel, in the days of Amraphel, Melech Shinar, who's the king of Shinar, Araich, Melech Elasar, and Araich, who's the king of Elasar, Kadaloimer, Melech Elam, Kadaloimer. Sure, you've heard these names before, like that. This is before Alexander the Great. This is before, Genghis Khan. Melech Elam, the Sidal Melech Goyim, and Sidal the king of Goyim. Rashi, Amraphel, who Nimrod? Amraphel is Nimrod. Sha'amar Labram, who said to Avram, Pol Teich Kivshan Eish, fall into the fiery furnace. Interesting how Rashi gets that, but Amraphel comes Amar Pol. That's what the Mizrahi says. That's how he gets it. Amar Pol, fall into the fire. Right? This is before we know of Avram. This is from the Medrash that when Avram was, fighting all the pagans of the world, and Nimrod threw him into a fiery furnace, and he was saved by God. Right? So that's what he's saying, that this is Nimrod. Melech Goyim, the king of Goyim, Goyim, a place with his name Goyim, which literally Goyim means nations, right? As the Jewish people are called Goy Kodesh, a holy nation. Al Shem Shinitz Shama. Why is it called that? Because the people gathered together there, Mikama Umas and Mikaimas, from many nations and many places. V'him lichu ish aleihim, and they made a king over them, Ushmai Tidal, and his name is Tidal, as the verse says. Okay, so those are 4 kings, and now in the next verse we're going to have 5 kings, and there's going to be a battle between 4 against 5, right? Verse number 2. Also milchama, and they made battle, they waged war in Bera melech Stoim, with Bera, the king of Stoim, Sodom, right? There's Birsha melech Amoira, with Birsha, who's the king of Amoira, right? This is Sodom and Gomorrah. These are those 2 nations. Huh?
I thought it was one place, but it's 2 different places.
Yeah, 2 different places. Yeah. I think they're like really close to each other. I think they're nation. I think they're city states. Like Rome was a city state, right?
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's city states type of thing. That's the way I recall. Well, I don't know if Rashi will address that. But
they were neighbors, so
they were neighbors, right? But
so you become wicked when you're neighbors with Russia.
Yeah. Shinav, Melech Adma, Shinav, the king of Adma, the Shem Ever Melech Tzivoim, and Shem Ever, the king of Tzivoim, and the 5th king is Melech, or Melech Bera, Hu Tzayar, and Bela, that is Tzayar. Let's see, Rashi, Bera, Ra L'Shamayim, Bera, it's got the word Ra in there, which means evil. He was evil to heaven. Ra Labrias, and evil to to people. Right? What? How? Because base Ra. Base is the second letter in the Hebrew alphabet, so it means a numeric value of two. Two evils. Evil to heaven and evil to people. Birsha also comes to the Rasha, which is wicked, right? Shenis Allah Biresha, that he was moved himself upward in wickedness. Birisha. In other words, like in his wickedness, like he went up in his wickedness, right? Shinav, Saina Aviv Shabashamayim. Sina is it means hatred, and Av means father. Who's he hate? He hates his father in heaven. Wow. Shem Aver, Sham Aver. He put an artificial limb on himself, la'oif, to be able to fly, belikvais, and to leap. Belimrei b'Hakadosh Baruch Hu, to rebel against God. Bela Shema Ir is the name of the city. Oh, you see here he brings out, that it's city saint. Yeah. Interesting how their names, exemplify who they are. Yeah. Kol Eile, verse number 3. Kol Eile, all of these Chavru, they joined El Emek HaSidim in the valley of Sidim, Hu Yam HaMelech, which is by the Dead Sea. Yeah, the salt sea. Yam means sea, and Melech means salt. Rashi. Emek HaSidim, the valley of Sidim, Kach Shmoy, that's its name. Al Shem Shahayu B'Yisodus Harbim, because there are many fields there. Because the word Sidim, Sodeh, fields.
That's weird, because there's nothing there. There's no grass, there's no trees. The whole area.
Right, it's just field.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hu Yam HaMelech, that's the salt sea. La'achizman, after time, Nimshach Hayam L'Seichei, the sea extended into the valley, and Asayam Melech, when it became the salt sea. Interesting. Right. Okay. Omidish Agada Imer, the Midrashic explanation, Sheni's Baka Hatsurim Siviboisab, that the boulders around they burst open. Nimshacho Yorim L'Seichei, and the streams were drawn into it. Huh. I don't know what that means exactly.
Gazers.
What do you
What
mean?
it means.
Huh?
Gazers. It's water that comes from within.
Is that what it means?
The ground.
Uh-huh. Okay. The streams from the ground, you're saying that okay.
Nidbaku Atzurim.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay. All right. So Shtemas Sar Shana, verse number 4 now. 12 years. Omdu is Kaloimer, Ushleishes Shana Mardu. For 12 years, they served Kadaloimer. And the 13th year, they rebelled. In other words, those 5, right? The first set were 4. The second set were 5, right? So for the 5 were serving Kadaloimer, and for 12 years, as he was the king over them. And on the 13th year, they rebelled against him. Rashi. For 12 years, they served this 5 as Kadaloimer. All of them served Kadaloimer, right? Even though we speak about 9 kings over here, his allies, right? He had 4 allies, Kadaloimer. 3 allies. They didn't serve him. I guess they were allies, right? But the 5 served him.
He conquered them. In the past, we read it.
Here it says it. Here it says that they were serving him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. No one serves anybody unless they're conquered.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So in the 13th year, they rebelled. Verse number 5. And in the 14th year, Kedlamer came, right? And the other three kings that were with him, V'yaku, and they struck Es Rephaim, the Rephaim, Bashtar's Karnaim, in a place called Ashtar's Karnaim. There's Azuzim. By the way, we have this in Devarim, in Deuteronomy. Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses mentions this at the end of his life, and make a reference to here. Well, maybe we'll see in a moment to see if the commentary brings it up. There's a Amim, and the Amim b'Shabbat Kir Yosam, and the Amim who were at the mountain of, who were at Kiryas.
Equal.
Yeah, Shava Kir Yosam. Rashi. Let's see what Rashi says. Verse number 5. Arba Asrei Shana, the 14th year, Lemirdam of their rebellion. Baal Kadaloimer came Lefishuaya Baal Maisa. He was the one directly affected by this, right? Nichnas Ba'avi Akeda, he played the most prominent role because he was, they rebelled against him, right?
He was like a sorcerer. So he went into the woods. He hid himself. Balamaise.
No, it means he was directly affected by it, right? He would no
into the wood.
It's an expression. It's an expression. So he went because he was directly affected because they were serving him. The other three were not affected by this, right? Because they weren't. They didn't have the benefit from them. So therefore Nichlas B'Kaira means he went into the wood, meaning he went into the Inyan itself. It's an expression.
He went into the what?
He went into this. He played the most prominent role. That's what it means. Malachim and the kings who were with him, Malachim, these are the three kings. Zuzim, him Zamzumim. They are Zamzumim, who we'll see in Deuteronomy. Yeah, he brings that over here. Yeah, the Rephaim and the Amim are the Zamzumim, who it'll be in Parshas Devarim. We'll have more on that later. Okay. Oba Asar Shana. And in the 14th year of the rebellion, sorry, we just did that. Right. Number 6. Vesachayri, and they also defeated the Hayri, Bahararam, at their mountain, Seir, which is Seir. Who's Seir, by the way? That's Esav, right? That belongs to him later. Edom, right? That's going to be later. Ad El Paran, until to El, the plain of Paran. Asher Alamidbar, that is on the border of the desert. Rashi in number 6. Bahar of their mountain. Bahar Shalem means in their mountain. El Paran, the plain of Paran. This should be understood according to Dumoy, to Unkeles. Meshar means a plain, flat land. But I say Shein El Lashem Misha, that the word El does not mean a plain. Ella Misha Shaparan El Shmoy, that El is its name, not meaning a plain. Shamamre Aleine Shmoy, as we have Aleine Mamre, we'll have later on Sheyarden Kikar Shmoy, and that the name of the Jordan is Kikar. He's bringing different instances here that a word that might seem to mean a adjective or a noun describing something is really a name of a place. Okay, he's just bringing different proofs. All of them, Uncle explains them as a plane, but I explain it as a name, not as a plain. Yeah. Alamidbar, by the desert, Eitz Alamidbar, next to the desert, Kamay Olav Mata Menashe, because Al means upon. So Rashi is explaining that it doesn't mean upon, it means next. Right? Upon means upon something. So he's saying, well, means next to it. Bordering it, in other words. That's the expression. Okay. Verse number 7. The Yashuvu, and they returned. They turned back v'yavayu el ein mishpat, and they came to ein mishpat, a place, he Kadesh, which is Kadesh, v'yaku, and they struck. Eskol asher stei Amaleki, all of the territory of the Amaleks, the Gamas Amori, also the Amorites, Hayoshe beChatzotzain Tamar, that they were dwelling in Chatzotzain Tamar. Okay, let's see Rashi what that means. Ein mishpat hu Kadesh. Ein mishpat is Kadesh al Shem Asid. In other words, it was called then. It was called Ein mishpat, which means the spring of judgment. In a reference to the future, an event that didn't occur yet. Shasidim Moshe v'Aaron, that Moshe and Aaron are destined Shafet Sham. They're going to be judged there on the spring that was there, and the spring of the waters of strife. They're going to be judged there because in the waters of strife. Remember, the Jewish people were complaining about water, and Moshe struck the rock. So it's a name that will be in the future is mentioned now. Because Ein Mishpat means the spring of judgment. Spring meaning a spring of water, right? Because what happened with the rock? It was covering over a spring, right? And the miracle would happen by speaking to it, that the water would spring out from under the rock, right? And that's not what happened because he hit it, so there was a judgment against him. Meriva. Uncle is Kipshute. Uncle is translated simple. A Malkum is a place, Shayu B'nai Medina Miskapsim, where the people of the country would gather, the whole mishpat for any judgment. That's how Uncle is translates it, different than Rashi did. Stay Amaleki, the territory of the Amaleks. There was no country named Amalek yet. There was no territory, there was no nation called Amalek yet. The Nikra al-Shem Azid, Torah is calling it on the future reference of this nation that would emerge. But at this point, there is no such nation. Bechatzotzain Tamar, who Ein Gedi. Oh, Ein Gedi, I was there. There's hot springs in Ein Gedi in Israel. Mikra Male, this verse is explicit. Kidivre Ayamim, Shafat. Okay. Interesting. All right. Vayetze Melech Sdoim, and the king of Sdoim, Omelech Amayra, and the king of Gomorrah, Omelech Adma, and the king of Adma, Omelech Tzivoim, the king of Tzivoim, Omelech Bela, and the king of Bela, Hitzayar, Yarchu Itzam b'Milchama Meka Sidim. They went forth and they engaged in a battle in the field of Sidim, in the valley rather. Amek means the depth. A valley is deep, right? The depth of the valley. They were fighting against Kadalaimer. So those were the 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are different names now, and Rashi doesn't pick up. That's Kadalaimer. They were fighting against Kadalaimer Melech Elam, the king of Elam, and Sidal Melech Goyim, and Sidal the king of no, they're the same. I'm sorry. And Sidal the king of Goyim, Amrapel Melech Shina, and Amrapel the king of Shinar. Arioch Melech Alosar, Arba Malachim Al Chamisha. 4 kings against 5.
You see different names.
No, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. But I'm a little confused now. We have Stoim, Amayra, Adma, Tzivoyim, and Bela Tzoyar, right? That's 5. Then in verse 9, Kadalaimer is 1, Melech Elam, Sidal is 2 of Melech Goyim. Amraphel is 3. Melech of Shinar. Arioch Melech Elasar. Okay, yeah, okay. I was afraid I wasn't counting right, but
these are 5.
5. The first verse is 5, and the second is 4. Yeah. So Rashi number 9.
And it's 5.
No, in verse 9 it's 4.
Tidal Omer, Tidal, Amraphel,
And Arioch.
Arioch. Right.
That's 4.
Yeah.
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 Okay, verse number 9 in Rashi. Arba Malachim, the 4 kings, against the 5. Afal Pike, nonetheless, Notzchu Hamuatim, the few were victorious. To tell you, Shigiborim Hayu, that they were mighty. The 4 were mightier than the 5. Afal Pike, unless Loi Nimna Avram. And why is the Torah telling us? Why do we have to know this? Because what's going to happen is that Lot is going to be taken captive, and Avram is going to come and free him. So Avram is fighting against the 4 that are mighty, strong, and they're so mighty. Nonetheless, it didn't stop Avram from doing what he did.
Quite gutsy.
Exactly, to pursue them, as we will see.
Like, wow.
Yeah, totally.
Amen.
Okay, verse number 10. The Emek Asidim, in the valley of Sidim, be'eros, were full of be'eros, wells. Chemar,
Clay.
yeah, Chemar is clay wells. I know you can have well that's just muddy, but no, clay wells, Shama, that were there. Hanisharim harasu nosu, and they fell into while the rest fled.
No, you skipped Vayanusu.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Yes. So you have wells, Vianusu, and they fled. Melech Stoim, the king of Stoim, Ba'amayra, right? Those 2 kings, Sodom and Gomorrah, right? From the 5, they fled V'yiplu Shama, and they fell there, right? V'hanisharim, and the rest of them, Hahara Nasu, they fled to the mountain. Psh, interesting.
It's funny that Pharaoh is not separating stone from Amorah.
Well, but no, they're always called Sodom and Gomorrah, so they're always.
I know, but this was 2 different kings.
Huh?
Before it was 2 different kings. Now it's just 1.
He doesn't.
Melech Sdom v'Amorah.
Right.
Before it was Melech Sdom and Melech Amorah.
So let's see 1 second. Yeah, yeah. So it's translating kings of, not king. It's interesting. How it's say Melech is singular. It should say Malche, but it doesn't. Right. But it's being translated in English. It's being translated as kings, right? In English, right? But it should say Malche to be plural, and it says Melech, which is singular. So we got to figure. Let's see if Rashi addresses it. Good point. Okay, Rashi, Beiris, Chemar, wells that are made out of clay. Beiris, Hayusham, there were many wells over there, Shenoitli, Misham Adama, from which they took earth. Letitchel Binyan, for clay for construction. Aha. In other words, it wasn't about the wells that they that a bunch of wells that they used it for construction. It was construction material. That's a simple meaning. Midrash Haggadah, the Midrash says Shahayu Atid, the clay was kneaded in the wells. It was a doughy consistency. It was sticky, v'nasa, and a miracle occurred. Lamelech Stoim, for the king of Stoim, Sheyatza Misham, that he emerged from there. If you Shahayu ba'umais, because God made miracles for them among the nations, miktasim shelo yahayu ma'aminim, but even for those who were not believers. Shenitzel Avram Urkasdim Mikiv Shana Eish, that Avram was rescued from the fire furnace of Urkasdim, Kiva sheyasa sham zeh min chemer. Since this king of Sodom got out from the clay, and Mino Ba'Avram Lemafreya, retrospectively, they believed of the miracle that happened to Avram. Whoa.
Abraham
Whoa,
came
whoa,
from the
whoa,
clay.
whoa, whoa. Huh?
Abraham came out of the clay.
No, he came out of the fire. He came out of the clay.
Yeah, it says them in Achimah, so it's a reference to the king of.
No, the king of Sodom, he came out of the clay wells, right? So once they saw that, they believed retroactively that the miracle happened to Avram, that he came out of the fire. I understand why that's midrash. Right? It's not simple meaning. Why does Rashi bring it down though? Right? Because the first explanation, who cares that they took clay and they built from the wells? They took the clay from the wells and they built. Like, why is Torah telling us that? Seems to be, a meaningless point. Therefore, that's why Rashi gives a second explanation to tell us about the miracle that happened to Avram, that people were finally believing in it because of the miracle that happened to the king of Stone. That's the way I take it, but it's still like it's a real far fetch, very far fetch, like from the simple meaning. When I say far fetch, I don't mean that the truth of it, but that it should be pshita shamikra, the simple meaning of the text. Even so, he's saying it's midrash of the simple meaning. It's still okay. Let's see Rashi further. Hera nasu, they fled to the mountain. Lahar nasu, to the mountain. Fled. Hara kamoy lahar. The word hara means like to the mountain, right? Kol teva shetzricha lamed betchila. Any prefix of a lamed at the beginning of the word, hitila la hey b'seifa. That when you put a hey as a suffix, it means to. And there isn't a difference between, because seemingly the root of the word of mountain is har, and here we're saying it's a prefix. It should have been an added hey to it, right? Hehara, it would have been, right? Hey, but when you put it at the end, but it does not stand b'mokum lamed b'nikuda patach v'tachteha. The lamed that is with a vowel of a patach beneath it. Hara kamay lahar. Okay, kamay elhar. Be'enam and farish zahar doesn't specify to which mountain. Ella should call echad nos because it implies that everyone fled. Hashem matzah ahar tchila, whichever mountain they found first. Yeshua Neis and hey bereisha. But when you put a hey in front of the word, right, that already has a suffix, then it means ahara means a specific mountain. But here it doesn't have a hey in front of it, so it doesn't mean to a specific mountain. It's written ahar to the mountain as opposed to, right, like El Hamidbar, to the desert, meaning to a specific one, not just to any. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Verse number 11, the Yichus called Rechush Steivamayra. And these four kings now in the battle, they seized all of the belongings of Steivamayra, of these two nation states. That's called Asher Chalem Yelchu. And all of their Eichel means food, meaning provisions, and they left. And they left. Right? Vichus loit. Guess what? They also took loit. And his possessions. Ben Achi Avram, the son of his brother, meaning a nephew, of Avram. And they departed. Because he was living in Stoim. Rashi picks up on that. We already knew that he lived in Stoim. So why is the verse telling us something that we already know? It's superfluous. So Rashi says, who caused him this, that he should be taken captive and all of his possessions taken? Yeshivas of because he resided in Stoim. In other words, he lived with bad people. And like as Chaim said earlier, bad neighbors produce bad things. Okay, the Yavai Apolit. Interesting. Verse number 13. And came a survivor. Polit means the platim in Hebrew is the word we use for those Holocaust survivors. They're called platim, Holocaust survivors, right? V'yagi Lavram. So came one sole survivor from this whole ordeal, from these two nation states, I think. Well, we'll see. Rashi is going to say, right? No, yeah, it's going to be someone else. V'yagi Lavram, and he told to Avram Ivri, the Hebrew. Interesting. I think this is the first time we have this word. He's called the Hebrew, right? Rashi is going to pick up on it.
What is refuge? It's not the same.
The survivor, refuge,
Yeah.
like refugee, a refugee, right? Someone who escaped from a place, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
So he came to Avram the Hebrew, V'hu sheichem be'alenim mamre, and he was then living in Alenim Mamre, Ha'emori, of the Amorites, Achi Eshkol, the brother of Eshkol, not Levi Eshkol, another Eshkol. There's Anar, and the brother of Achi Anar, the brother of Anar, Vehem Bali Bris Avram, and they are, Bris means covenant, right? They had a covenant with Avram, right? They're allies, right? They had a covenant with Avram. Okay, Rashi and number 13. Lengthy Rashi here. The Yavai Polit and the survivor or refuge G came. Lefi Pshutei, simple meanings. Ze'aig. This was Aig. Shepoli mina milchama, he escaped the war. V'hushikazu, how do we know that? Because it's written, Kirak Oig Nisham Yesar Rafoim. Because only Oig. Now, how Rashi is bringing this, he brings a verse from Deuteronomy, right? Which is going to be like how many years? It's going to be like, a few hundred years later. That only Oig was remaining from the Rephaim. Nishar, and this is what it means left. Because there it says the word Nishar, here it says Nishar, right? Shelo Yahargu Amraphel b'Chaberev. Amraphel and his companions did not kill him. When they were struck in the Rephaim in Ashtar's Karnaim. And Tanchuma. This is a comment by the Tanchuma. Midrash Bereshis Rabbah, but in the Midrash of Bereshis Rabbah, it says that it was Oig, Shepolit Midor Hamamel, because he escaped the destruction from the generation of the flood. That's what it means from the remaining of the Rephaim, meaning from the giants who lived in times of the flood. Shenemar Hanefilim Haya Ba'aretz, that there were Nephilim in the land. Umiskavin Sheyaring Avram. And Oig intended that Avram would be killed attempting to rescue Lloyd, Sarah, and he would marry Sarah. Whoa. Right, remember Sarah was a beautiful woman? So he'll go and battle. Why is he coming? Right, here we see, you think, he's coming and saying, helping Avram about his nephew, to let him know what's going on with his nephew, that he's been captured. No. He just wanted him to go battle so he would be destroyed and killed. That way he could marry Sarah. Ivri, remember the Hebrew? Why is it called this? Because he came from the east, and the other side of the Euphrates. Shabam Evar Anohar, right? On the other side of the Euphrates. Israel, the Euphrates goes like this. So he came from the eastern side and went over to the west. That's going into Israel. Bale Bris Avram, Shikosei my Bris, they formed a covenant with him. Interesting. Alternative explanation is that they were party to the covenant because they gave him advice on the milak regarding circumcision, as explained elsewhere. Interesting. Okay. Vayishma Avram, and Avram heard ki nishba achiv, that his brother, translates here kinsman, was taken captive. V'yarek es chanichav yalid beisei shmeina aser u'shloishim meyais v'yidav chedan. So he was v'yarek es chanichav yalid beisei, and so he armed those that were born in his household, 318 attendants, and Yidav Adan, and they followed to pursue to get the captors of Eloit until Dan. Let's see, Rashi. The Yarek should be understood Zares, that he armed Bechain, and I will draw a sword after you. Edyan Becharbi Aleichem, I will arm myself with a sword against you. Ari Charbi, just showing that it means to arm. Chanichab. Chanichab means Shechina Choisam b'mitzvahs. He initiated them with mitzvahs, right? That he taught them, to fulfill mitzvahs. This is the beginning of a person. The beginning of a person, of an entry of a person, oikli, or with an implement, lo umonois, for his craft or task, shu osid lamayba, that in the end he was destined to be engaged in. Initiate the child, chanukas amizbeya, inauguration of the altar, chanukas abayis, inauguration of the house, and in Old French it's called estrena. But in other words, it's something that you inaugurate. So in other words, they were young. They were young inaugurated combatants who he armed them. Shmena Asar 318. Our sages say laws. Our sages say that it was only Eliezer. And his name Eliezer, if you take the numeric value of it, it's 318. Now, why? Why does Rashi learn that way? I have no idea. Adan, and he went as far as Dan. Sham Tashish Geicha, his strength became weakened over there. Sharav Shasidim Bana, because he saw that children would be destined Lamid Shamego, that they would there make an image of a calf for idolatry. I'm not certain what that refers to in the future. Okay, verse number 15. Laila, and the night was divided against them. Who of him and his servants, Yakim, and they smit them. And they pursued them until they came to Choiva, Hashem Small Damascus, which is north of Damascus. Wow. It's pretty far north, right? Got it? See over here. Got a Take over Damascus. Chaim.
Mhm.
Pasuk says we got to take over Damascus.
Yeah, it's true.
The
Don't
Rebbe
stop.
said, no, the Rebbe said in 1982, right?
Don't
Reagan was in Europe, and he said literally in front of thousands of people, in the Fabrengen, that the leader of the country is in Europe, and he's not going to concern himself with anything that's going on in the Middle East right now. Now's your chance. It was the Lebanon War. Go all the way to Damascus. Here's the verse: "As go to went to Damascus." Rashi. Okay, Yechalek Aleim, and it was divided against them. The Pshuta, according to simple meaning, huh?
It's Arik Sharon, I think he was going in there.
Yeah, that was Sabra Shatila. No, but I don't know if it was his division or not for the going to the yeah. Anyways, according to the simple meaning, Saras HaMikra, you have to invert the words of the verse and read it as follows: and he and his servants divided up against them at night, right? In the way you pursue, that you split your troops against those who you're pursuing, right? Otherwise, you don't sit in one combat unit. You split up your group, and nighttime. That's what they did. They split up the group to go to battle from different fronts.
Because there were a few kings there, so
Yeah, Shemispal Macha and Yerdofim. Right.
wow.
Kishim Borachim. When they flee, Zelachan, one will be here, one will have the other one. Right. Laila, nighttime. Kalaima, another is Nimna didn't stop him from to still pursue them. Simple meaning. Well, Midrash Agada, but the Agadic understanding of this, Shenechlek Alayla, the night was divided, Bechetzi Arishain, with the first half, Nasa Leines, a miracle that be performed, Bechetzi Hasheni Nishmar. The second half, he was kept guard, Ubalai, and he came forth to him, Chatzeis Laila, Shemitraim, to the midnight of Egypt. Okay, I don't know exactly what that means. Ad chayva until chayva.
Was
Malkum chayva.
maybe it's a pitch dark, referring to Makat, the one of the the dark.
No, it's speaking about the 10th plague the ninth plague of darkness.
Laila is the darkness.
Right, so it's at midnight exactly. Midnight, right,
Yeah,
would
they
be
couldn't
Makas
see anything.
B'chayres. Yeah, but okay, I don't get it exactly, but all right.
Okay, Midrash.
Yeah. Rashi's bringing it down. That's why I don't like. Why does he
So
do
many
that?
Midrashim he brings in this.
Yeah. Okay, 16. Let's finish off. Yashiv, and he retrieved it's called Rechusham, all of their belongings. Vigam is Light, and also Light, Achiv, his brother, right, his kinsman, it translates to Rechushai Heshiv, and his belongings he returned. Vigam is Anashim, is also the women and the other people. In other words, he saved them all. 17. Vayetim Melech Staim, and the king of Staim went out, Likrasei, to greet Avram. Achrei Shuvai Me'akais is Kalaimer. He went, the king of Staim went out to meet him after his return from defeating Kadalaimer. Others, the king of Staim went out to greet Avram after Avram defeated Kadalaimer and the kings that were with him. To the valley of Shava, which is the king's valley. Rashi, Emek Shava, valley of Shava, Kach Shmoy, that's its literal name, meaning flat valley. Targumoy is, Onkelos explains it. To the vacant valley, Is there vacant of trees? We call mikshol and all obstacles.
No tree, nothing.
Right. Everything was easy pickings.
I'm surprised because if they split, Abraham had the miracles. We know about, the flowers and all the sand and all this. What about the other ones? So they were miraculous too, or
I mean, besides Stone Varamora?
but
Well, I only mention Stone Varamora because those. But are you on the side over here? Let me know because I'm also there. I don't know if you'll. Emek HaMelech, the valley, the king's valley. Base Risa, the Malka, the king's area of Ris. Base Ris Echad, 1 square Ris. Shur Shloisha Kinim, which is 30 measured rods. Shayim Yuchad LaMelech was destined for the king. Litzachik Sham, for his amusement. Mashu? Oh, it sounded very distant. Yeah, wasn't there, right? It's distant. Midrash Haggadah, Negadik, Amek, the valley, Shushwakola Umais, all the nations became equal with one mind. Was Avram Aleim, and they made Avram sovereign king over them, Lenasi Aleim, to be a prince of God over them, Lekatzin, to be their chieftain. Well, that's it. Midrash is saying that they were so taken by Avram that they made Avram their chieftain over them. Whoa. And he blessed Avram. This is the king of Stoim now, right? Baruch Avram, blessed is Avram, Lekel Elyon, before the God of Most Highs, Kainish Maris, who is the possessor of heaven and earth. Rashi, number 19. Yeah. Malki Tzedek, Midrash Haggadah, who Shem, that was Shem, Ben Noach, the son of Noach. Malki Tzedek. Malki Tzedek, I'm sorry, I missed 18. I'm sorry, Malki Tzedek, and Malki Tzedek, Melech Shalem, he's the king of Shalem, the Haitzi Lechem, he brought out bread, the Yayin and wine, the Hukayin, Lekel Elyon, and he's a priest of God, the Most High. Wow, let's see this. And where did he come from all of a sudden? He came out of nowhere, right? Malki Tzedek, Midrash Haggadah says, who Shem, that's Shem, the son of Noach. That's why he came out of nowhere, right? Because Shem, remember, Avram is a descendant of Shem. Lechem v'yayin brought bread and wine. So they do after being exhausted from battle. Melchizedek had shown Avram. Shem belibo I love. They has nothing in his heart against him. Al shaharag is bonam that Avram killed his descendants.
Wow.
Right. So he brought out bread. Right. Elim was the son of Shem, and he was defeated, but he had nothing against him. Right? Midrash Haggadah, the Haggadah, they're bringing Avram bread and wine. What was that? Remez Loi, Malki Tzedek was hinting to him al minoches on the meal offerings, al nisachim, and the wine libation. Wow, Shiakrivu Sham Banav, that the descendants of Avram would offer there. Wow, amazing. And he blessed him. Malki Tzedek, shame, right? V'yemer Baruch Avram, blessed is Avram, Kel Yom, for the God on Most High, Kenish Maris, who is the possessor, one who acquires heaven and earth. Rashi, Kenish Maris, Kamay also Shamayim Maris, as he makes heaven and earth, Al Yedei Yasiyasam, through their making, Kanami acquires him, Liyashaloi, to be that it belongs to God. Baruch, last verse 20, belong to God. Baruch Kel Elyon. And blessed is God on Most High, Hashem Migain, who protects Tzarecha biyadecha, he protects you from your foes, that they should be in your hands. Meiser Mikol, and he gave him a tenth of everything that he had. Meiser means, right, tithes. He took tithes, a tenth of all. Hashem Migen, who has delivered, who has protected, who has handed over, yes, Necha, Israel, who would hand over to Israel. Yitin Loi, Avram gave to him, Meiser, a tenth, Kol asher lo, everything that was him, lefishu kain, because he was a priest. Uh-huh.
Abraham was a Kohen?
No, Melchizedek was its kohen.
Oh.
Because it says kohen. It says that he was a kohen, right? So he gave him a 10. Wow, Baruch Hashem, we got that finished. We're going to do Tanya in a few moments.
Well, he's saying
Thank
that
you,
he's
folks.
the descendants of Shem.
Yeah.
But